Hello and welcome everybody to the webinar. My name is Colleen Beatty with, with Electrical Contractor Magazine. I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation, Moving Your Labor Operations to Digital. Moving your labor operations to digital workflows, sponsored by Rivet. On behalf of the magazine, I want to thank all of you for attending today's presentation. Before we get started, I just need to quickly go over a few housekeeping items. First, please note that today's presentation is being recorded and we'll be providing you with the link to the recording after the webinar is over. So if you miss anything or if you have to leave early, you can come back anytime and watch the recording when it works for you. Now, of course, we encourage your participation in today's webinar, so please send us your questions. You can submit them at any time during the presentation using the Q&A module on the bottom left of your screen, and we'll have time at the end of the webinar to answer them. You can also use the Q&A window to reach out if you have technical difficulties. There's also a quick survey that will pop up on your screen at the end of the webinar, and we hope you'll fill it out. Or if you'd like to fill it out sooner, just click the icon with the clipboard at the bottom of your screen to open it up. Now, with all that out of the way, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Please give a warm welcome to Ryan Meidel, President and CEO of RIVET Work. He's going to be leading a panel discussion about how labor ops software can boost your company's efficiency and profitability by improving how field labor is managed. I'll let Ryan introduce our fabulous panel of contractors, but first, let's give a warm welcome to Ryan.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Let's see. Did it switch all right? All right. So first, just quick introduction on myself, and then I'll try to hype everybody up, and then I'll introduce our panelists. But my name is Ryan Meidel, co-founder and CEO of RIVET Work. So RIVET is a 100% American-made labor operations software platform built specifically for and with electrical contractors that do commercial and industrial work. And so for the core EC Mag audience, I think one of the things that's unique about us is that we built our platform together with electrical contractors, but not just one particular size, really ranging from 30 in the field to over 1,000 in the field. And the panel that we have here kind of represents that diversity in both like size and also specialization. And I can impart just like one takeaway on myself and my business is that we care. We care about the industry. We care about our customers. And that's because we're not just a vendor. We're also like part of the community. And so, that's enough about me. I'm really here just to open it up, hopefully get everybody excited and stimulate some good conversation by asking what I hope are good questions so that you and the audience can learn from your peers here. So this is the hype slide, just really high level, wanted to zoom out to the entire industry. Today, electrical contractors in the US are doing more than $200 billion in annual revenue. That's a pretty large increase from 10 years ago. As you guys know, labor is typically between 40 and 60% of a project's budget based on type of work. So split the difference, there's about $100 billion of that revenue that's directly attributable to labor. And what that means is that with just a 1% improvement in labor, it's $1 billion, which is a pretty big number. And I've yet to meet a company in this industry that doesn't think there's more than 1% left on the table to gain from a labor standpoint. Now, scaling that down to the size of a typical contractor, just for context, a 50 tradesperson business is doing about $10 million in revenue. Spends about $5 million on labor, and a 1% improvement's about $50,000 a year. A 100-person tradesperson contractor is doing about $20 million in revenue, $10 million on labor, and 1% again is about $100,000 a year. And a 500 tradesperson contractor is doing about $100 million in revenue, spends about $50 million on labor, and a 1% improvement's about $500,000 a year. Just disclaimer on this, it varies by region, type of work, cost of labor. This data was actually based on pandemic, data, so it's probably on the low side based on material and wage inflation over the last few years, but like get the general picture. So I mean, just like in summary, kind of like why you should care. There's a really big opportunity, both from the industry and also your individual businesses. And the question is just, how do you unlock that opportunity? How do you separate the signal from the noise? And the way I see it, and our panelists also see this, is that better labor operations is a component of unlocking that opportunity. And that's because labor and labor planning is like a common cause of margin slip or margin fade. So before we go into the panelists, we've got a really quick survey that we'd like you all to answer. And I think you can just click directly on the application and fill it out, and it'll give us some context as our panelists go through answering questions. And we'll give it just about 60 seconds, and then I'll introduce our panelists.
You should be seeing the poll on the left side of your screen, folks. Go ahead and you can just click right in there. Give folks just a few more seconds. All right, let's go ahead, Ryan.
All right. Well, that's telling. We'll come back to this. But let's introduce the panelists. So Tim, Nick, and Phil are also here on the panel. And helping people like Tim, Nick, and Phil is why we actually started Rivet. They're innovators and guiding lights in this industry and in their markets. So let's go ahead and hear from them. So we'll kind of go left to right here, but starting with Tim, can you introduce yourself, your role, talk a little bit about your business and its history, and then just a little bit on your field and how that's run?
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. I'm Tim Wicker, president of Electric Plus. We have about 470 total employees, 400-ish in the field. We also have 4 branches, and in that we also have 5 different divisions, which we're able to spread out and use Rivet to break out not only by branch but by division to move our manpower around and those type of things. Basically we do commercial, industrial, hospitals, a little bit of everything. No residential or light commercial, mostly in the heavier electrical contracting work.
Thanks, Tim. Nick?
Hi, Nick Petrino, Executive Director of Operations Planning and Strategy at KLA Laboratories. KLA was founded in Detroit, Michigan in 1929 as a technology company providing audio equipment. Today, we are a low voltage contractor specializing in local area networks, wireless networks like Wi-Fi and cellular distributed antenna systems. And we still do audiovisual solutions, which traces back to our origins. We have about 50 to 100 IBW technicians. We have 3 offices here in Michigan, but also in Las Vegas and California. And we use Rivet to schedule all of our workforce now.
Phil?
All right, so I'm Phil Hansen. I'm a commercial service manager and in-house IT director for Roman Electric. We're a family-owned electrical contractor in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We have been that way since 1929 as well. We offer commercial construction services as well as design, build, plan, and spec. We also do commercial service for plumbing and electrical. Our residential department offers services for plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. We have a low voltage datacom division doing security, low voltage installations and service as well. We service the greater southeastern Wisconsin area and have been using Rivet now to do our manpower and labor allocation for about 4 or 5 months.
All right, so first question, softball. So Tim, how do you think about technology at your company, just broadly, and how do you make decisions about technology? We're a pretty loose organization. Again, we started it myself, so it's, as we've grown, we've had to get more direct about it. But, we try to be very technologically advanced and try to be out there, not too far out to get our nose cut off, but far enough to make sure we're making the right decisions and making sure our company is doing the right things in the business, as technology does move. And learn software like Rivet and others that we're using to try to streamline our approach and help us to make sure everybody's on the same page in our project management software, our ERP, and some of our account, or even our estimating. We've kind of got those in different locations where everybody's doing the same thing, give or take, within their own methods. But so we try to find things that'll help us streamline and process driven so that we're all on the same page. And we bring somebody new in, it's easy to show them how we do things. It's not 10 different spreadsheets and 10 different programs and everybody's got their own on their desktop. So trying to look for opportunities to be able to bring that together in one platform, and which is part of why we're using Rivet. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar to that. We're always on the lookout for things that can make us more efficient and improve processes. So over the last 5 to 10 years, we've added, 3 or 4 different platforms that handle different things, like payroll and expense management, and now Rivet to handle our labor workforce stuff. And it might be a little corny, but it's kind of like another tool in the tool belt. So it's the same as like a tool that can help us terminate cable faster, some sort of software that can help us, be more efficient in a different way is pretty important to us. And then, generally we're looking for something that has a bigger impact on multiple layers of the company. So we don't want to go through and change a whole process or procedure if only a few people, can see the benefit, or if it's only a slight improvement to the process. So it's got to be something that's significant enough for us to go through with it.
And what about you, Phil?
Yeah, we've got a kind of a similar story. I'd say we've made a really strong effort in the last 5 years to start trying to modernize and utilize technology for the field and the office. So looking for different pieces of software and innovation to get data and information to the field and be able to get that back, streamline things, like Tim said, get everybody on the same page so we're all working off of the same systems. And we utilize ideas from other electrical contractors that we collaborate with throughout the country, see what they're doing in their markets, and figure out what kind of ideas they have and how we could maybe implement them. And then, NECA trade shows and stuff like that, just to see what's new and exciting that's coming out there. And then, when somebody sees something that could be a good opportunity, we kind of present it to our management group and talk about how we could utilize it. And then if it's something that seems like it would work, we will put together a little small group to start to learn it and figure out how it best suits us, so that we can kind of roll it out and teach the rest of the company what we're going to do going forward.
So we all know this is never a smooth and narrow or a smooth and straight journey, and when it comes to implementing technology. So you mind sharing what a couple mistakes that you've made or your business has made in implementing software at your business, and any advice or lessons for things to avoid when implementing software? You want to start this time, Phil?
Sure. So this is our first real rollout that I'm aware of with trying to do labor software. So we haven't made a ton of mistakes yet because we're still pretty new at what we're doing. I'd say our mistakes would be more in the kind of like the poll answer was earlier, the using Excel spreadsheets and whatever to manage our labor. And that's where we've really realized that we're missing out on important information, not being able to react fast enough. And that's kind of why we're going down this path. But it's important to learn about the piece of the software that you're going to use and how you're going to use it. And everybody has those hiccups where you think it's going to be the latest and greatest and best, and you get 4 or 5 field users to try it out, and they can pick it apart pretty quickly. So we try and be agile to be able to make those adjustments, and hope that the staff is understanding as well that not everything is going to roll out super smooth day one. And even though it maybe had a hiccup, we're going to try and massage it into what we need it to be and figure that out. So, you try and get the team to collaborate on buying into it with old school mentalities and stuff. Some people are more resistant, but I think once we've noticed how useful the things are, how important it is to be up to date, everybody kind of buys in and we get on the same page.
Got anything to add, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, similar to that, we're still rolling it out to our lower level people in the field. So still some information to be gathered there, but I think it's important picking a software that is willing to adapt with you. And so, something that Rivet has helped us with is, they've been receptive to our feedback on features and building those out, and some of the other software that's out there that can do similar things. It's a little more strict in terms of like what they offer, and they're not going to tailor it to your needs. And so I think finding a solution that can adapt as you need it to is pretty important. And then like Phil said, I mean, there's still, you want something that's not going to be difficult for users to pick up and find. So if it's more intuitive and they can manage it, navigating it pretty easily, I think they're going to be more receptive to using it and get that additional efficiency out of it.
And Tim?
Well, I can flat out say we have messed up before. We've been down the wrong path with some software. Some of the ones have worked out. The biggest thing we found in the past when it comes to software, the biggest mistake we've made in the past, we've corrected it, and we're able to correct it with Rivet too, is making sure we get adequate training for people. A lot of times we'll buy the software, we kind of vaguely understand it, we roll it out, don't give good training. Obviously with Rivet, we've had a lot better opportunity to get that training out and do it. We actually had a software right before Rivet that we were doing this same thing with. We were kind of their guinea pig to a certain degree, and realized pretty quick the company wasn't as strong as we were sold on. There's one programmer, one problem, and we realized, oh crap, we're in pretty deep. And fortunately, we hadn't spent a lot of money, spent a ton of time, but not a lot of money. But then to Nick's point, Rivet kind of stepped in about 3/4 in the way to that before we trashed the other one. Obviously had a lot more backing and a lot more personnel in place to make sure if one guy gets run over by a truck, there's somebody else there that knows the program. But Rivet's been very flexible, and to Nick and Phil, they've been able to help adjust to what we need and the requests we've had to help fine tune it and make it better. And that's been a work in progress, and still doing those things as we bring up ideas or thoughts and go from there.
Awesome. Well, so you've all adopted, labor software and Rivet directly, but why did you ultimately decide to do that for your business? Like, what was the main driver in deciding to adopt software and run labor through software? Tim, you want to start?
Sure. We've actually looked at it for a number of years. One of your Rivet's big competitors out there, I won't name their name, but recently been bought as well. We looked at them for a long time and for different issues as far as some integration. And again, that balance of being able to work with us wasn't there as much. So we hesitated buying them over time. And we just kept the big whiteboard with magnets on it and moved people around. And we've been trying to get changed. And then we went down this bad software path, and we did try it. It was a failure. But then we were able to obviously come on to Rivet and bring it. But that, again, being able to, especially our superintendent and our different branches, moving people on the fly, they get a phone call, they get a text from a guy that says, hey, I need to move Joe to this job and Fred to that job, instead of trying to make a Post-it note or write it on his hand or make a note in his phone, and hope he moves the magnets when he gets back. He can obviously pull Rivet up on his phone, move it around, push the guy to the right job, and it's automatically updated, and the project managers know where they're at. Our payroll knows where they're at if they've got questions. And obviously if something, and God forbid if something would happen and we need to get a hold of somebody, you hit your phone, you hit their name, there's their phone number, there's their emergency contact phone number that allows you to do those things. It's stuff we've been looking for. We just hadn't landed on the right platform. And again, Rivet's done a great job of customizing some of those things and features for us as well. So,
Nick, what made you guys decide to buy software for labor?
Yeah, we really wanted to move away. I mean, we were using an Excel spreadsheet for a long time, and it worked just fine for us. But we felt like there was more we could get out of a tool that would allow us, like Tim said, to make those schedule changes on the fly and really see the impact of where that would be across multiple jobs. And it was just so much easier to use it in a tool that was designed for that purpose than trying to shoehorn it into Excel. So. It also allowed us to see opportunities of where we could move people based on where they're located and who is closer to certain projects or where they lived at home, and just kind of find some efficiencies in that deployment. And then ultimately the dispatch process is like usually a combination of the emails and phone calls and text messages, and having a central platform to do all of that dispatch through, something that we're looking forward to really rolling out to our team this year. Would give us that ability to do it through one place instead of multiple places, and also have that visibility to other people in the company to know who was dispatched where and when, sort of thing. So
And
For
Phil, what
us-
was the tipping point for you?
Yeah, for us, it was, getting a handle on the future and knowing where we were going to be at and where our labor needs and shortcomings and overages were going to be beyond just this week. And we have, weekly manpower meetings where we go through the spreadsheets and talk about who was working where and what we thought was maybe going to come up. But looking at the forecasting and the projection that Rivet provides has really been one of our biggest excitement factors to be able to project what we're going to need coming up in the next couple of weeks, in the next couple of months, if we're going to have, a surplus of labor and we got to find ready to go jobs right now, or if we need to start looking at hiring some new guys and bringing people in off the books and whatever it's going to be. So, going from that old school style of just kind of tabulating where we're at right now and hoping for the best, we want to get a better educated piece of equipment that we can use to help us make good decisions and be prepared for the future.
And what do you guys think the biggest impact has been to your business by going digital? What's the biggest impact, Tim?
I think honestly, just knowing where people are at, the ability to move and just knowing where people are at, what's going on, the map and knowing where people are at to adjust. It also allows us to adjust people, try to get them closer to home. We can see the jobs map and we can see where they live map and try to keep the guys try to always keep that in their mind, but it's always nice to try to keep guys closer to home if you can. But I think just having that at your fingertips and being able to move it, and you don't get 6 weeks down the line and you're like, oh crap, I need to go sit down and review everybody because it's just gotten lost on the board or lost in the Excel spreadsheet because you didn't have that instant access to move it. And, things just don't always go the way they should. It's just made us more flexible and it gives everybody that information at your fingertips rather than one or two guys with a magnetic board on the wall or an Excel spreadsheet they got to get to and hopefully move the people at the right place. So I think that flexibility and having it at your fingertips has been the big thing for us.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, really similar. Like the forecasting is also huge to be able to see, where we're going to be in a couple weeks. And, we can, like Phil was saying, plan out, when we're going to need those people and where we're going to need them. Also like the ability to tie scheduling of labor with the equipment. So we have some large pieces of equipment that, we share across projects. And so we can schedule those out in advance too and see those needs in one place. Now, before that was two spreadsheets for us. Now it's in one place together. So, and then just the general information flow with the team. So we can share with our project managers who's assigned to their projects, who's coming off, who's going on, that sort of thing. That really helps eliminate needing to send emails for that. They can go in and see what's going on right in Rivet.
What about you, Phil? What's the biggest impact you've seen?
Yeah, I would say our biggest impact, we're still early on, and so we're still trying to get all that good information in and be able to do that forecasting stuff that we're looking forward to. But probably the biggest impact early has been just the efficiency for our meetings, the way we're able to kind of communicate that information and streamline what we're doing. We're not, paging through certain stuff, going back and forth between, who's in a need works position, who's going to be off on vacation, who's out for an injury, and what job are they on? Well, I thought that was last time before the other time. And we've cut our meeting time down significantly, which is just, time is money. So you're saving time for everybody. And an efficient meeting is a much more successful meeting as well, because nobody feels like we're wasting time and taking too long and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I would say our biggest early success has been just the time efficiency and being able to keep all of our information straight in one spot and a very user-friendly and easy way to manipulate it.
And I guess what advice would you have for any other contractors tuning in related to labor software in general? Phil, you want to start?
Yeah, so, just making that sign on recently, it's another thing like any piece of technology. It's maybe seems a little daunting. It seems like a big task. There's a lot of information. you got to stick with it. And it's definitely worth it in the end with going to a more digital platform, because, you know, you're going to want that information quickly and easily. And once you make that commitment to go with it, it's important to stay on top of it and have the right people that are involved to kind of manage it and make sure it stays like a good live breathing document that you can use. It's easier once you get started, and I think we all know that. We find that out once we get going into it. It's not as scary as you thought it was going to be. And obviously the people at Rivet have been excellent with getting that back end setup done. And you know, you feel like you're going to have to put everybody's information in and get all their tags and everything, whatever they make. And really, the setup was so much simpler than we thought it was going to be, and just getting that support going through it. So it seems daunting, but it's worth it, and it's not as bad as you would think. And I think people could really benefit from it.
And Nick, what about you? What advice do you have?
Yeah, pretty similar. I mean, like Phil took a lot of it, but like, don't be afraid to try it. I mean, the process that you probably have is working, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't improve it. And you know, like Phil said, at first it might be a little bit of a challenging process, but I think once you get into it, it'll help. And then I think the biggest thing too is to involve others in that initial rollout. So I think if other people see it, they can see the benefit to it. They'll buy in and help you, you know, get it implemented. And then the more, you know, people that are in it, the more likely it is to stay up to date and be beneficial to you. So it's just that the biggest thing is just get people in, get them using it, and I think they'll understand the why of what you're doing it for.
And Tim, what advice do you have?
I try a lot of what Phil and Nick said. I mean, I think again that initial setup, it can seem daunting. You know, we went through it. Again, Rivet was great as far as being able to work with our ERP and you know, the programs we had to be able to integrate those together to bring jobs in and people in without having to redouble enter things and update that daily as well. We've got all that streamlined really well, so it's a smooth process, and that's been a big thing. I think just the flexibility Rivet's had to make these things happen instead of us trying to shove our stuff into a round peg into a square hole that we don't even know how to do. Rivet's been flexible to make that happen for us. I think it's been a great, you know, thing to happen. And again, just the resources, once it's working, it's awesome. I mean, it just really does work well. So.
And to step away from labor for a second, although it can be a labor answer, but what other innovations are you guys tracking in the electrical industry that you're really excited about or exploring for your business right now? So software, hardware, whatever. Like, what are you guys excited about outside of this? Tim, you want to start?
Sure. We are looking at some other things processes wise to help, you know, some of the things we find that Rivet's done. And again, some of our other programs that streamline some of this stuff that is really a pain in the neck. We've got some other things that we're looking at to streamline our prefabrication facility and manufacturing. But in the same token, some of the cool things out there, you know, as far as making workers' lives a little easier, whether it's exoskeletons, things like that are kind of going to change the industry and make workers more comfortable to get the job done and safer. And, you know, safety is always that thing you're looking for. It's always hard to find and make those gradual small changes. But, you know, some of that stuff, the VR stuff out there in the field is, you know, that ties into BIM. You know, those are real cool things going on in the business. What's that going to look like 5 years from now versus what it looks like today? There's a lot of that going on. And then you start hearing about some of this AI stuff in the world that somewhat scares the ever-loving heck out of you. But where's that going to go? And what's that going to change? And I don't think any of us have any idea. Some of that's come up lately that's like, wow, it's going to be interesting.
What about you, Phil? What other stuff out there that are you excited about for the trade?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the process of doing some different stuff with our ERP system, you know, our service management, call center stuff. One other big one that we're working on right now and looking at is just kind of our file storage and how we are going to kind of keep everything centrally located, make it accessible for different groups, different committees, different field staff, just so that we can more efficiently keep things rolling. And, you know, there's one of the greatest things is that there's so many things to pick from. There's a lot of people out there that want to do everything. We haven't found that really that one-stop shop for every single bit, but, you know, we cherry pick from one or the other and say, well, this one suits us better for that, and our size company is better for this. So we've just got some cool things coming up that, you know, we're trying to roll out and get our head around so that we can know it better than we should before we try and implement it. Like Tim was saying before, you got to get a really good handle on it to basically know how to use it and know how to teach it before you can just shove it down to everybody. So there's some cool stuff coming up there, and hopefully it's going to really help us maximize what we're doing.
What about you, Nick? What are you excited about?
So, I mean, I guess keeping it labor related a little bit, I mean, as a union contractor, we're always looking for things that can help us with making requisitions at multiple locals across the country. Could that be done, you know, more consistently and in a single platform? You know, but generally anything that can aid us in collaborating and communicating in the company is things that we're excited about. And whether that's, you know, looking at drawings together and working on that, you know, in the cloud, cloud storage, like Phil mentioned, is something that we're exploring more and more. And, you know, as we grow across the country, you know, we don't need to have our information in multiple locations. But then more generally, you know, longer term, like automation and AI is intriguing in how it could potentially help us to do estimating and takeoffs. But then also, you know, scheduling and resource loading, you know, are there things that we could, you know, take off of people and have those just on, you know, or some intelligence behind that, and have those people focus on other things.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. Those are all the questions I have. I think we have some time here for Q&A.
Yeah, we have plenty of time for a Q&A. So first, we did have a couple of questions of folks asking if the webinar would be available on demand later, and yes, it will be. Everybody who is registered will get a link to the on-demand webinar later today. I can't remember exactly how long it takes, maybe an hour, but maybe more. But yes, you will get a link to the on-demand webinar, and you're welcome to share that with whoever you would like, or just keep it for yourself. So the first question we had for you guys is there a place that folks can see a demo of Rivet? Like a website or? Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's a link somewhere in here. I don't know how this webinar software works, but our website is www.rivet.work, or you can go to www.rivet-work.com, and there are resources there to request the demo. We've actually got lots of videos online, so none of this stuff is like hidden. And so, you know, through our website, we've got a YouTube page. There's lots of videos and links to the product on there. But if you just like sign up or request a demo, like we'll provide a demo. Like, more than happy to do that.
I just highlighted the resources module for everyone, so you could find the link to rivet.work. It should be on there. So another question for you, Ryan. Where does the name Rivet come from?
That's a good question. So the name comes, well, one, a rivet is a strong connector, and that's kind of like how we viewed our company and our product when we first got started, is that we were going to be a strong connector between the back office and the field, and between companies and the halls eventually in the union ecosystem. And then it has a sort of like side benefit that we're based in Detroit, and in Detroit, Michigan, you know, back in World War II, you know, Rosie the Riveter was like, you know, an icon during the war for, you know, manufacturing, building planes and tanks here in the city. And so that's, you know, that's our assistant. That's how you chat with us live while you're using the application, is Rosie. And so that's kind of like the side benefit to the name.
Oh, that's so cool. So I just wanted to remind everyone that you can submit your questions for Ryan, Nick, Phil, or Tim using the Q&A module. Let me highlight it for you so you can find it. It should be on the left of your screen underneath the slides. So here's a question I think for everyone. Maybe Ryan, you want to start us off, but I think everyone might want to talk about this. How does Rivet compare to other software options for labor ops?
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of go through what I view is the landscape anyways, at least like maybe the newer era landscapes. I mean, there's like really 4 options that I'd say are pretty comparable, at least on surface level, to Rivet. So, there's Rivet, there's what was formerly LaborChart, which is now Procore Workforce Management. There's Bridget, and then there's Assignar, and then there's actually one more, and it's BuildOps. And so I think what's unique about Rivet, and especially for this audience, is again, like this is like purpose-built vertical software for the electrical contracting industry. We do serve a few other trades, but like 97% of our customers are electrical contractors. And specifically for the ECMAG audience, like most of those are NECA contractors. Just to run through the list, Procore Workforce Management is probably the closest because it was actually like built initially for the electrical contracting industry. They serve a lot more GCs now. Bridget was really built for general contractors, and so it's more of like a resource loading for salaried workforce that may be on multiple projects at the same time. So that's like kind of how their product is optimized. Assignar is for civil and heavy, and so it's a lot more equipment and not very good at scheduling large groups of workers. Like you won't find a roster view like ours that really looks like your old whiteboard. And then BuildOps, the last one, is really focused on really mass scale commercial service. And so like basically like more like these, not like contractors like directly. And so, if a building owner or developer has a large portfolio of buildings in a downtown area and they've got their own in-house staff, that's what BuildOps is for. Those are like the ones that I'd say like are the closest to what we do. There's a lot of like older platforms that have some elements of scheduling and dispatch, like, HCC or HCSS, Heavy Dispatcher. There's like a couple of like older era platforms out there too. But of the newer ones, those are the other folks. And I think the main thing is just that we're really purpose-built for the workflows that this industry has converged on. So everything's familiar. You won't see anything that like looks very different than the way you already do it today. It's just digitized and connected via strong rivets.
Nick, Phil, or Tim, do you want to chime in, like maybe with your experience of Rivet versus other, how it compares to other programs?
Our experience goes back to LaborChart was the one we looked at extensively, and I would agree with Ryan as far as really side by side. They're probably the closest, at least from what I've understood. The other ones, not as much. I've seen them in a display, but not really in action. But LaborChart I had, and again they've moved up to Procore whatever management now, so it's a little different story. And then we were the one we kind of jumped because it wasn't working. It was a local company that's just in Indianapolis that was trying to do it. So that was the closest to it. If you're trying to compare apples and apples, they're definitely different. And Rivet's obviously brought in, which we haven't think really been talked about, does have an equipment section where you can put your tools and those type of things in and assign them to jobs. So now you got 2 functions that we had in separate programs now in one program, one whiteboard. Now we've got it together and it all talks together, and we know the guys can find out what tools they should have on the jobs as well. So there's a dual purpose it's doing for us too right now, which as far as I know, it's the only one that does that. So.
I can jump in, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, so one of the things that we like the best is just kind of some of the stuff that Ryan said, which was this was suited for electrical contractors. And it's, everything else kind of did it or was okay, but, also had these other elements for a GC or for, a different type of a trade or something that, when you look at the things you're going to invest in, you want to see, well, which parts of it are we going to use? And so this was one of those ones where we saw kind of everything about it was ways that we could implement it and utilize it. And there wasn't going to be a whole lot of bloat side stuff that we didn't really need. And, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the whole one-stop shop, everybody's trying to acquire a version of everything. And we haven't personally found one that just kind of hits everything on the nail, right on the head where you need it. So that's why, we're comfortable with going with something like Rivet, where it's an independent that is focused on this one good thing that it does really well. And so we're really happy with how that's been.
Yeah, similar. We looked at labor chart, and I've talked to Procore in the past. Procore did tell us that, you know, if we had projects that were less than a week, they're probably not the right tool for us. And so, you know, obviously that's not going to work. We have projects that are a day. So the flexibility of Rivet and being designed in a way that works for us and doesn't have all the extra stuff like Phil said was a plus. And then, you know, we looked at other tools to do the equipment tracking and scheduling. And I don't know if there's anything actually out there that can do scheduling in advance on equipment. Usually it's like a check-in, check-out. So being able to put that with the labor resource planning was a huge benefit for us because, you know, some of those are high dollar items that, you know, now we know when they're ready to go do a different project. They're not just sitting there and not being used. That money can be, for those, that equipment can be on a different project, and we can be more efficient with the allocation of those resources, whether it's labor or equipment.
All right. Here's a question. This is probably for Ryan. What categories of workflow are included in the Rivet software?
The way I like to talk about our kind of like three pillars of our application. I mean, one is long-term labor forecasting. And so if you've got a manpower loading spreadsheet today, right, that's something that exists in Rivet. And then the other component is actually scheduling. So day to day, where are my people going to be today? And then the dispatch, the communication of those schedules. And those two things interplay with each other. And so your long-term labor forecast kind of overlays on your actual schedule, overlays on your whiteboard. And so you can kind of see what did my PMs or what did we plan? What did we say we were going to use on the job versus what we've actually got scheduled on the job today? So those two components. And the third component is what I call the workforce management component, but it's just all the underlying data, skills, certification, job history. Does this guy have a badge? Does this guy know his way around the Ford plant, et cetera, right? For making those decisions about who I'm going to tactically put on each of those jobs. And then just the interplay between all those things. And so those are I'd say like are the core workflows. And there's lots of kind of like ancillary things about how we do transfers or how we do dispatch or how we automatically draft templates of the roster or notifications to the foreman who the guy's coming from the job to, and then also to the foreman the guy's going to the job to. The automation of all of that is also in the application. But the core workflows are just like the forecasting, the day-to-day scheduling, the communication of that, managing that underlying workforce management data that allows you to make good decisions about where people should be.
Neat. And I guess a follow-up question for Phil and Tim and Nick would be, are there any particular workflows that you rely on more or less, or that you really like having, either in Rivet or any labor ops software in general? Oh no, I've stumped you all.
Yeah, no, I think just the workflow, the main workflow Rivet's made for, and that's just making sure you can move the guys around and gals around easily and quickly, is the number one thing. What it's made for to start with, by far the best thing it does. And again, some of the add-on stuff's just made it better. But as far as the number one, it's still going to be just moving the people around and get them in the right positions in the right place to be successful, and everybody in the company can know where they're at. So.
Sorry about that. So yeah, I was going to say the same thing. There isn't any one particular part of it that I think we found to be better or worse or more useful. It's kind of just the overall the system that it has, and so utilizing it all together, it does itself really well, and that's what we expected from it and what we really like about it.
Yeah, I mean, same from our side. And like I said, the equipment tied in with the labor is huge for us. So that, all aspects of it are beneficial to us.
Let's see. Does Rivet integrate with any other software on the market?
Yes, we do. And so from most of our customers, I'd say today, we will integrate with your ERP. We can integrate with other systems. We're very flexible. Again, it's like one of the things that's unique about us is we really care. And we know that double data entry no one signs up for software wanting to do double data entry. And really, we're not here to make you less efficient. We're going to make you more efficient. And so that's something we really put a lot of energy into. And so we can integrate with just about anything. There are like a few software vendors that I'd say are a little, they're not as nice to play with, but just generally speaking, like we can make something work, and especially offline. And so even if it's just, exporting a CSV, right, once a week out of your ERP, and then, we'll ingest that and automatically update data fields in Rivet. Like that's the thing we do if it happens to be one of those vendors that doesn't. It's not easy to play with, but yeah, we'll integrate with just about anything. We've built integrations with Sage, we've built integrations with Computeries, we've built integrations with Viewpoint and Vista, and so it's usually ERPs for the most part.
Okay. We had an interesting question about the typical size of Rivet users, like the electrical contracting businesses. Like, is there a typical size or range?
Yeah, I mean, the range is pretty wide, and I mentioned at the start, it's like 30 to 1,000 plus, and so we've got customers with more than 1,000. We have a couple of those. We have a lot in the middle. When we started the business, we were working with so like basically we had kind of like 3 design partners at the beginning. So there was a 30 field, 30 tradesperson contractor. There was like 60 actually KLA Labs. Nick was one of those, and then there was 1,000 tradesperson contractor. And so we kind of like served all 3 of those companies at the same time as we were building the product. It probably took us a little bit longer to get it all mature because of that, but the end result is we can kind of serve everybody, because we know that different companies kind of schedule and manage labor in different ways. Bigger companies have traditionally like managed from something that looks like a whiteboard, even if it's not a whiteboard anymore, because you're just not going to make a granular schedule for 1,000 people. But smaller companies are going to do much more granular scheduling because they can. And also just like generally, whether you've got 500 tradespeople or they got 50, you're still usually just one person that's kind of in charge of all that. So the granularity of the scheduling gets a little bit less as you go bigger. So we've built all those views into Rivet. So whether you manage from a whiteboard or whether you manage from something that actually looks like a schedule, we've actually built that. So that's a very long-winded answer, but yeah, like 30 to 1,000 is like our range. We don't really serve many companies smaller than 30. I mean, if I was running a 10-person shop, I'd still use it, but your typical 10-person shop's not particularly interested in what we do, because there's also you're more likely doing service at that point, and there's like better applications that do residential service and things like that, for example.
Well, that's good to know, because the types of folks that read Electrical Contractor magazine are from companies of all different sizes. So it's great to know that, like, no matter what size they are, this is a good fit for them. Here's a great question for Tim, Nick, and Phil. Has Rivet improved your cash flow? And if so, how? Like, how has it improved your profitability as a company?
From our to put it in dollars and cents, I probably can't do it. I mean, it's made us more efficient. I mean, as far as that goes, and just be able to move guys, and I think from the dispatching and being able to send texts or emails straight out of Rivet to move guys and give them the address and do that stuff. Quantifying that down to it's 2 minutes versus 6 minutes or whatever that difference is, or 1 minute versus 4 is kind of hard to put down. And we have not dug into it to try to figure out. We just know we're more efficient. We know again, all the pieces that go with it, it just makes us a better company. And some of it's just that, we're a better, our technicians feel it. They see that we're doing more advanced things. It's easier for them to communicate and know what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to go, contact information. So as far as quantifying the exact dollars, let me put it this way, we haven't researched into that far. Maybe Nick or Phil has, but it's just but we do know we're saving in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've actually quantified it, but you can just tell that we can more quickly see where people are and where we need them, and there's no doubt that that's going to be beneficial to us to not have extra people on projects for longer than they need to be.
Yeah, it's a tough one for us too. Cash flow, cash flow directly. I don't know how I could put a number to that, or even say what it has or hasn't done for it, but just overall efficiency, like everybody said, it's about knowing where people are, where they need to be, and saving people on time. And whether that's our field staff or our office staff, I mean, we want everybody even in the office, to be as efficient as possible. And if we don't need to be triple entering things or giving it from one person to another to put it in on how many labor hours we have for a specific project, and everybody's trained up on how to just do that and get it done, and it makes our meetings faster, it gets us back to securing more work and managing more efficiently. So cash flow, maybe not, but efficiency, just, extremely.
Okay. Let's see. Here's another interesting question for Ryan. Why did you start the company?
That's a great question. So there's kind of like two parts to this. I mean, one, I spent about 8 years in lighting controls. And so I think most of those on the call will be at least familiar with lighting controls, and also how frustrating it is for contractors to deal with. And so, working alongside electrical contractors, I've been doing that for a really long time. And so I've felt the pain. I've seen the need to have better planning around labor. I guess there's like three components. Like the second component is actually like our Southeast Michigan JATC. And so made a lot of friends at the JATC, a bunch of the instructors. And when we actually started the company, we kind of initially wanted to digitize the book, not just digitize the book, but digitize hall dispatch, so that the companies would be able to request in a single platform, kind of universally, labor from the school. At least here, like the apprentices are dispatched from the school instead of the hall, but I know some locals is directly from the hall. But whether it's like from the school, whether it's from the hall, and so like that was like one of the other kind of like at least moments where we said we're going to start this company. The third was actually the people and our team. And so I've got 3 folks that I initially started the business with. We're almost 20 now today, but we were working at different companies, and we all we'd spent some time working together, and we just knew we could also create magic. And so we wanted to build a business together. And this was the thing that we'd been, working with or adjacent to for most of our careers. And so this was just kind of like the convergence of all of those things are why we started the company. But it wasn't easy at the beginning, for sure.
Oh, I imagine not. I don't think starting any company is ever easy. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in. Just if you want to ask a question, I'll highlight that box for you real quick. Give you another minute to ask. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody for this fabulous panel. Ryan, Phil, Nick, and Tim. This has been fantastic. A really great discussion. I think really useful to our audience. So let's see if we got any more questions. I do not see any more questions, so I think we should end it here. So on behalf of Electrical Contractor Magazine and Rivet Work, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you to our panelists for such a fantastic presentation. Please don't forget to fill out the survey. Let me highlight that for you also. There it is. You can take the survey now. It will also show up once we close out the webinar. So please fill that out. It'll just give us a good idea of whether you enjoy this webinar and whether you want to talk to somebody at Rivet. And of course, like I said, be on the lookout in your email for the recording of this event. It will be available soon. And please feel free to forward that email to anyone else that you think would benefit from listening into this discussion as well. So I hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and we hope to see you at a future webinar.